Welcome to Tales of Resilience, a podcast honoring the heart behind animal rescue. I'm your host, Jolene Feeney, a mental health therapist, lifelong animal lover, and founder of Zodi Paws and Animal Rescue Hub. This is a space for real conversations with the people who care for animals when no one else can. From shelter teams and wildlife rehabbers to transporters, vet techs, and nonprofit leaders. We talk about the joy, the grief, the burnout, and the moments that remind us why we keep showing up. Whether you've lived this work or just want to understand it more deeply, thank you for listening. Let's get into today's story. This episode may include references of animal suffering and death, as well as themes of mental health, including suicide. Welcome to Tales of Resilience. I'm your host, Jolene, and I'm so happy to introduce you to my guest today. She is the Assistant Manager with Grant County Animal Outreach that has been in operation since 2007 and partners with the City of Moses Lake Police Department and Grant County Sheriff's Department, as well as partnering with the Washington State University Vet Med Clinic to support the spay and neutering program. Welcome, Serena Jewell.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I really appreciate you participating in this project, talking about resiliency and what it takes to be in this field. It's quite the task.
Yeah, it's no small task at that one.
Absolutely. Well, can you start us off by telling us a little bit more about the Grant County Animal Outreach Program, and then maybe what led to your journey into being involved?
Absolutely. So, Grant County Animal Outreach is one of the only shelters in Moses Lake, Washington. So, we service not only the city of Moses Lake, but we service the county of Grant County. And that's just with loss, abandonment, strays, as well as court cases. So, I take a lot of dogs from people with badges, which is pretty cool because we get to protect the animals of the community while also working with the members that help protect us. So it's a pretty cool hand-in-hand thing. I got started with Grant County when I was in middle school. I wasn't quite working there yet. But growing up, we'd always see here in town, we call it the puppy parking lot, because it's a central location by Walmart where everybody would always have the backs of their vehicles pointed towards the road, and they were selling puppies and kittens. And any given day, you could see at least anywhere from 4 to probably 10 cars lined up with different animals in the back. And growing up, we think it's normal. We're like, oh, a cute puppy, let's go look, let's go see. Well, when I was in middle school, I got the opportunity through one of the programs to go volunteer at the shelter. And I didn't even know we had a shelter. I was like, what the heck is a shelter? Like, what do you mean? There's animals there? And so I got to go out there one summer, and we spent about a week volunteering. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's this warmth inside of me that it is filling, and I've never had this sensation before. And, I spent a week volunteering, and we went back to school and all the normal stuff, but I couldn't get that week out of my mind. Like that feeling of just, there was a look, we've all seen the look in those animals' eyes, and it just, nothing left my mind. And so after that, I kept volunteering each summer until I was about 16. Then I started working fast food, and it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't in any way. And so I remember having one of the board members reach out, and she was like, hey, I know you love animals. We got a serious problem. It was during COVID. We need some help. We're looking to hire. And I was like, okay, like, sure, I can't stop. Like, let's go. And I started working out there when I was just about 18. And it really opened my eyes to the puppy parking lot. I didn't realize that it was a harmful thing. And ever since being out there, like the world of animals has gotten bigger, but it's also helped my learning curve as to what we as humans are doing to these, unable to voice themselves animals, for lack of a better word.
Mhm. Yeah, they don't have a true voice. And so yeah, having people like you and other people around you and in that community be able to speak up for them is a big deal. I imagine that COVID time, I mean, I think it had an impact all over the country in the shelters. So it sounds like it really impacted staffing in particular.
Yeah, definitely. So I started, it was like right in the middle of COVID. Like everything was slowly kind of starting to open up, but not fully. We were able to kind of take our masks off, and the shelter just exploded. I have a coworker who actually started prior to me, about 2 years prior, and she used to talk about how, like, it wasn't super full. We weren't really always at capacity. Like when I started, we were triple capacity. Our capacity is only 44 for dogs and 30 for cats. So we were triple, and you could only imagine it's a small building. It was built way before '07 and converted to a shelter. So it was rough. It was really rough. And right around that time, people were starting to go out into the world again. And so these dogs that people had while they were quarantined in their house, they were coming to us. They were being left. They weren't fixed. They were pregnant and producing. And it was really, really hard to just get a handle on the boom.
No kidding. I can't even imagine what that looked like. Yeah. So did you grow up around animals or was the volunteering kind of that first exposure to that?
I unfortunately was one of many others who we shopped at the puppy parking lot
Mhm.
growing up.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I had a tendency to also pick up strays, so animal control knew our house very well. So I called my mom and, Mom, I found another one. She's like, Serena, that's your fourth. Can you stop, please? Like, so I always wanted to help. I couldn't say no to any sort of cute little face that came my way. And no, we always had dogs growing up. We got cats as I got older. I got one during COVID because I was bored and lonely. So I love animals. I've been around them since I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine, yeah, that like the puppy parking lot. I mean, yeah, as from the therapist perspective, it's like, oh, you know, you can't be angry at yourself because it's cultural, right? Like it is what it is. Like that was the norm. And so you were just kind of doing what other people did, you know. But yeah, when your eyes get open to something, um, it's like you can't go back sometimes to those realities.
No, and it really, so the public calls it the puppy parking lot. The shelter, we call it the Walmart specials. Unfortunately, as cruel as it sounds, because a lot of people, they come in and they're like, I got this puppy from Walmart and it's sick. And I'm like, oh no, did it have any vaccines? And nobody realizes the quality of life of these animals that they are potentially reducing by just purchasing them at the corner. They have no vet history. They have nothing. You don't know what they've been exposed to. And that's something that we've done a lot of hard work this past year in educating the public. Like you got to be a voice and you have to ask all these questions, for their sake, not just for your sake and the other animals in your home, but for this new animal whose life you're now responsible for.
Yeah. 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 The education piece is so imperative, I imagine. What is a air quotes here typical day for the Grant County Animal Outreach Program staff volunteers?
Well, I mean, so our normal kind of checklist we do when we get in. So we have an office dog. She's amazing. She kind of free roams the lobby and office at night. So we get in, we let her out to go potty, and then we start checking our completed folders, which they're folders for the officers because unfortunately we're so underfunded, we can't have a nighttime staff. So we can't have even just one person. It's a goal, but not right now. So we check those folders for impound papers. And if we find one, we start roaming the facility to find this new dog. Um, and then from there, we kind of just get started with cleaning. So We don't have very many play groups, so the dogs that can get along, we try and put them all in a large play group. And then the ones that can't, we give them individual outdoor kennels. We clean, we feed, and then usually all that's done right around noon, because our staff gets in at 8 a.m. We open to the public at noon, and we're open until 5 p.m. So usually right around noon is when everything's finished, and then we start doing our adoptions, and we start helping anybody who walks in our doors.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have practices around your adoption? I know that sometimes there's a split idea of like how that process should work. Should it be restrictive, not restrictive? Like, do you guys have a process for how you adopt dogs out?
Yes and no. So our shelter for many years now has been extremely dilapidated. It's very sad. It's very boring. It's not very pretty either, unfortunately. It's concrete walls, metal doors, and just it's kind of sad looking. But because we work heavily with the city and county, that means I get a larger amount of bite holds in. So my normal run, we call it the stray run, that has all of my working guillotine kennels and everything, that is full. It's been full for a very long time now. So my bite holds have to go somewhere else for quarantine. So because of this, we can't have the public walk back as it's a huge safety risk. So we have a binder. A lot of people have mixed opinions on it, but we have a binder, and that's one of my responsibilities is I make sure that it's up to date. I try and include 3 to 4 pictures of each animal so you can kind of see different angles and all that good stuff. Their name, their age, their guesstimated breed. We don't DNA test. I wish we could, but we don't.
Too expensive, right?
Um, oh my goodness, super expensive, especially in our area.
Mm,
Um, Folks flip through that, and if they see somebody they like, I do have them sign a liability waiver. That's just due to past issues, so it's one of those. And then I bring them out, and you can spend as much time with them as you would like. In that liability waiver, it's a pre-adoption form, and I use air quotes just because we don't do home checks. It's not intense. It's mostly like, do you have a fence? Are there other animals? Are there kids? We ask a lot of basic questions. And then from there, we form a larger conversation. A lot of the packet, it's 2 pages, but we call it a packet, is just asking, what are you looking for in an animal? Sex, age, breed preference or not? And then do you have any restrictions where you are? And from there, we kind of feel it out, so to speak. We like to talk to the people as much as possible. So we don't like home checks. We feel they're too invasive. Even our staff has said, like, if somebody were to do a home check on me, like, I know I wouldn't pass, but my animals, they go to the vet, they're well cared for. And so that's something we don't do. We don't like it. I would not consent to a home check, so I'm not going to make somebody else do it.
sure.
Um, if they like the animal, we usually, provided there are no other animals in the home, we do same-day adoptions.
Mhm.
If not, we ask for a meet and greet just to make sure everybody gets along well. And they don't have to take home on that first meet and greet. They can have 2, 3, 5, as many as they feel comfortable with. And then we kind of just go from there. So we like to play it by them and us.
Totally. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Um, is there something that you feel like in the community that you serve, there is a misunderstanding or a misconception about what you guys are capable of doing or general operations?
100%. So before we became the Grant County Animal Outreach, which is a 501(c)(3) no-kill nonprofit, we were part of the Humane Society. Unfortunately, that split a long time ago. I want to say probably close to a decade now. The Humane Society provided us with the funds to do spay and neuters for the public and vaccination clinics and all the fun stuff, being able to help a lot of folks. Unfortunately, there was also a lot of misconception around that time that we were a kill shelter. And when they split, there was never anything that was made public. So the community doesn't know we don't have Humane Society funds. They We try and help as best as we can, but we don't have the nice big numbers coming in, so we can't offer spay and neuter clinics without the assistance of another rescue or anything that we know the public needs help on. Unfortunately, all of our money goes back into our shelter, and that's kind of barely keeping us afloat at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that can be, I'm sure, really scary sometimes to know that the funding sources, which I'm guessing is all donation based, is that where most of the funding comes from, or?
Half of it's donation based. I'd say a good split would be donations. The other would be from our contracts with the city and county.
Okay.
So they bring me strays and bite holds, and I take their money.
Yeah, that is how business works, I suppose. Yeah, but to know that that flow of money isn't abundant, I'm sure that could be kind of nerve wracking at times.
100%.
Yeah, yeah. Um, has there ever been a moment where you kind of questioned your path, or do you feel like it's just like you mentioned, so meaningful to you that you couldn't imagine doing anything else? Or
Yes and no. Um, I I'm usually pretty, my staff, they like to call me stone cold sometimes. And that's because I have this, I feel like it's a gift, this ability to really keep my emotions in check. So I'm not one, you'd never catch me crying. Um, and so, when we get the emaciated animals in, I can immediately just focus on what does this animal need? How can I help it? Um, we do have, there's nothing wrong. I want to, before I continue, there's nothing wrong with being emotional. Absolutely not. It's a very hard job. I've been blessed to be able to understand that my emotions and how I feel is nothing compared to how the animal themselves feel. So I need to keep that in check so that the animal can't feed off of my scared and sad energy. They need to see me happy and willing to help in order for them to trust me. So that's been one of my greatest things that I've been able to know about myself and also be able to help. There was a time though when I really questioned it. It was within my first month of working out at the shelter. Our shelter is located near a lot of factories. Like we're talking heavy metal machinery factories and a apple picking facility. So there's a lot of heavy traffic and there's a lot of semis. Our parking lot's not a normal parking lot, it's gravel. So this gentleman had came in to try and surrender his dog. Unfortunately, we're at capacity. I don't have anywhere that I could safely put the dog, so we did have to turn him away, provided we always give other resources and other shelters. Um, Unfortunately, he was extremely angry that we were not able to help, and he took it upon himself to drive and just fly out of our parking lot without looking. He was actually struck by a semi
mm,
and his car got pushed into a ditch. And I remember my manager coming to get me and she said, Serena, I need your help. There's an accident and there's a dog involved. And we're probably, I want to say 5 to 6 miles out of town. So it takes, EMS a while to get
yeah.
there. And we had to pull this dog. She was in a wire crate. The wire crate had actually, and this is pretty graphic, it had broken and it was puncturing herself, her body. And so my manager and I, we had to try and cut the dog out with wire cutters and everything. And I remember rushing to get the van and we loaded her in the back and I sat with her the whole way. And that was when I first questioned it. It was my first month out there, because everybody thinks it's fun. It's puppies and kittens and rainbows. And there are those days, but then there were also really hard days. And that is also the moment I learned that I can be pretty stone cold about emotions because I knew like this dog is already scared. She's in so much pain. There is no reason for me to make her more scared by being sad and nervous. So I just had to kind of like, it's okay, like you're good. So that was the one time I've questioned, but after being able to help her and get her to the vet and everything else, I knew that this is where I was meant to be. because I was able to do such a good thing for her in her most emotional moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very powerful story. And yeah, what training by fire, I guess, ultimately is the definition of. So I'm sure
Yeah.
you're incredibly grateful that you stuck around for that. And I think it really lends very easily to the topic of resilience. The ability to go through hard things, traumatic things, and be able to kind of bounce back in many ways. And it sounds like you definitely have some strong resilience in you. Would you say that you've always been a resilient person?
100%. If you knock me down, I'm gonna get back up. Like, I'll take a moment and I'll kind of sit there, but no, I'm always going to look for a solution. I'm always gonna look for a way to bounce back.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you have your own personal definition of what it means to be resilient? Or when you think of that word, what kind of comes to mind?
I think just being strong-willed.
Mm,
I just in For my definition at least, resilience for me is being able to be strong-willed. You're not gonna let, you know, what just happened or what may happen define what could happen.
mm,
So being able to see what you want and accomplish it is my biggest form of resilience for me.
yeah. Yeah, I really like that what you said that what has happened, what could happen doesn't have to define what can happen. I think that's really awesome. That's a great perspective. Do you have obviously the story that you told about that very traumatic incident as a reflection of resilience in that moment that obviously had a lasting impact on you. Have you had any other stories of unexpected healing or transformation that you've been able to witness?
Ooh, I had one today,
Oh wow.
believe it or not. Um, so one of my favorite county officers, he's wonderful. His name is Shane Starnes. He has been working hand in hand with our shelter since before I started out there. But one time, he calls us up because they always try and give us a heads up, like, hey, I'm bringing a dog, super friendly, or hey, you might want to grab a catch pole, unfortunately.
Mhm.
And he calls me up and he goes, hey, I got one for you, but it needs some medical attention. And I'm like, okay, is it something that I can do with the shelter? Is it a minor cut, scrape, or is it in need of more medical attention? And he says, I'm not quite sure. What do you mean? Well, I think it was hit by a car. It can't quite move, but it can move, but it's trying to bite me. And I'm like, okay, got it. And so he rolls in and he's this little black, I don't even know. The dog didn't weigh more than 30 pounds. He was a Heinz 57 through and through. And the poor guy, you can see its legs somewhat swollen, but not like recently happened in the last 48 hours swollen.
Mm,
So I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I wrap the dog in a blanket and I'm like, hey, you're gonna be okay. My coworker's on the phone with the vet. We're trying to get him in. And I asked Office or Deputy Starnes, I said, what the heck happened? He goes, I think he was hit by a car, but he's walking just fine. I'm like, okay, like this is a little weird. And so we get him into the vet. He was struck by a car, but it was over a year ago, the injury is what the vets are assuming. And so because Deputy Starnes, he likes to check in on the dogs he brings. He's always been super caring. And so I call him up and I'm letting him know how the animal's doing. And I said, I need a name for this dog. I need to intake it. He needs his vaccines. What do you want to name him? So he says, well, he had a hip injury. Let's name him Hippie. I was like, okay, I'll never forget how you came in. That works perfect for me with new adopters. Let's call you Hippie. Hippie has been with us for a little over 2 years now.
wow.
He did not like animals bigger than him. We're thinking it was a past trauma. He also was very shy of new people since the incident. Can't really blame him. But today I got a text from my boss saying that Hippie has been adopted. He found a home and it was really hard to find little Hippie a home. Everybody was so scared of the previous injury.
Mhm.
When we got him cleared with WSU Vet Med, we took him there for x-rays, and because of how it healed, Amputation wasn't recommended at the time, but because of that, it was really hindering him, but it never stopped Hippie. Hippie was climbing fences, he was making friends, like he did not care that his leg was all messed up. So he's one that really sticks in the forefront of my brain just because like he was a little menace. He wouldn't eat unless you played with him for like 30 seconds first. He wouldn't take a toy unless you acted like you were taking it away first. Like he was a very happy-go-lucky dog. And for spending 2 years in the shelter, you would never have thought that he spent 2 years because he was just, he loved everyone and everything at the shelter. But when it came to out and about meet and greets, heck no.
Really? So
Yeah.
funny. Well, congratulations to Hippie. That's really awesome. That's exciting. Is that hard to have an animal in your program for so long? Like, what's that like, for the staff there to see this great dog, right? You obviously know their personalities intimately, and you know that they could, be a really great match for a family, but to see them waiting, is that challenging?
Yes. I don't know anybody who would say no. It's extremely challenging. We get attached. As you know, we get attached to everyone who walks through our doors, but the longer we spend, the more I keep cleaning up their poop day after day. They start to feel like your own. And so usually in those scenarios, we always believe in transparency. So we're always going to let the adopter know, like, hey, this dog might take more time than any of the others I have. It's been here a lot longer. We always make sure we tell them, call us, email us, text us, reach out. We want to help this bond form. So we all get pretty sad. But usually 9 times out of 10, I send an email usually within the first 3 months of checking in. Hey, how's everything going? And then I usually send a letter in about 6 months to a year, just being like, hey, just checking in. Is there any issues? Has it been fantastic? So we usually try and keep the communication open a little bit. Fortunately, I can't call at that 3 week, 3 day, 3 month mark. But we try and do it the best we can.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. If we know that you're resilient, which is a wonderful trait. And this is, it's kind of a question I haven't asked anyone yet at this point, but I'm curious, like, do you feel like resilience is something that you just innately have, or do you feel like that's something that you can learn?
I think both,
Mhm.
truthfully. I think, and I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal in any way, shape, or form, but I do believe that the resilience of being stone cold, so to speak, comes with time. It really does. It comes with a very large learning curve. I think being able to bounce back is a wonderful trait that anyone can have so long as they put their mind to it. Some people are born a lot more stubborn than others. And some of us we have to learn. But I think that with time you can get to be the resilient person you want to be. I don't think anybody is born magically with this huge abundance of I'm going to get whatever done whenever. But I do think that you can teach yourself how to bounce back from just about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to agree. Um, how do you take care of yourself? So, again, you're working in obviously a pleasant environment at times, but also in other times, maybe not so pleasant. In fact, sometimes traumatic. So, how do you end up taking care of yourself?
That's a great question. Honestly, I've been out there for 3 years and it's something I'm still learning. I love fishing. I have a wonderful partner who, when he knows I'm having a rough time, and I just come home and there's that like cloud around me, you've had a really, really rough day. You've seen some things you wish you never had saw. Um, and he'll kind of go, let's go fishing. And that's my my favorite thing to do when the season's right, to turn off my brain and I don't have to think about anything. I can just enjoy the peace and quiet. One of my favorite things is turning off my brain because if I let it go in sometimes it just starts spinning. Um, I really, between fishing and my own animals, I also have reptiles, so that's been wonderful. Um, Unfortunately, there's a rescue side to reptiles too, and our house knows it very well.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm still learning. I have a very hard time when I come home some days to shut my brain off and stop thinking about work. My boss yells at me for it because I'll come back the next day and be like, "Hey, check out what I was thinking." And I got like an 18-page slideshow, and she's like, "Quit, go home and relax." But it's hard for me because I'm so emotionally attached to all of them to just turn it off. I'm always trying to think of a way that I can get them seen, that I can get them home. And taking care of myself is something I have been trying to learn for a very long time now.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like maybe it feels like if you relax or if you kind of just stop thinking about the shelter or the animals there, that maybe it that you're not caring enough or that you're failing them in some way.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly how I feel.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, your boss is a champion for your self-care. Is your boss good at self-care, or is this just, do you think, a general issue?
I think it's an issue with where we work. We
Yes.
have such a very small niche team. I mean, we're a team of 8 total.
Mhm.
Um, so we're all very close. So we have a tendency to be like, you know what, this week has been horrible. We've seen, some horrible, whether it be abuse, neglect, abandonment, just whatever we've seen in the week. Let's go have a barbecue. And thankfully, we have some really nice lakes around us.
Yeah.
So our team's very close, and I think the more time that we spend together, the more time we want to spend with the animals, if that makes any sense. Um, so usually our self-care is all going like fishing and barbecuing, but we all have a hard time separating from one another even.
Yeah, it's well, I think that relational aspect with people, healthy relationships is, I think that's part of resilience, being able to have that community, whether it's the community that you work with, which I think is helpful because, I've worked in some inpatient treatment centers that get pretty rowdy, and your coworkers are, they're the only ones who know exactly what you've been through, so there's a bit of a bond that kind of happens there. So I think there's something in that that's healing. And but even just that ability to go fishing and be very present in that moment and not let your mind kind of take you this way and that way is a nice break every now and then.
Yeah. I mean, we also can't help it. There's quite a few of us who have borrowed from the shelter when it comes to animals. We foster for a little bit and then unfortunately they never come back. Not unfortunately, but
Right.
you can't really help it. You're like, oh, you're not doing good in the shelter. I'll foster you. Just kidding. Now we have 3 cats.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, a team of 8 starts having more animals than they thought they were going to have.
Yeah, you walk in with one and by the end of the month you walk out with 4.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think helps you stay in this work?
That's That is, I wish I could say it's the animals at the shelter, but it's not. So that first year I volunteered at the shelter, when I was in middle school, there was a dog there. And I brought my mom just to look after we finished volunteering. I ended up falling in love with that dog. Um, he was my lifeline through a very hard time in middle school and high school. He got my first apartment with me when I turned 20. He was with me for a very long time, and he was the best dog on the planet. I know everyone says that, but I mean, this dog and me, we were soulmates. Like, if the lights weren't off at 8 p.m. so he could go to bed, he was howling at me. Like he was my best friend. Um, and unfortunately, in April, I did have to put him down. He had cataracts, which then formed to a neurological issue. So he had a really hard time functioning. Um, and so ever since his passing, I really questioned being at the shelter. I really wholeheartedly did in April. I also lost a family member. My life got really rough through April and May. Um, and it was really, really hard for me to come to work and not be emotional because that kennel that I found him in is still standing to this day. I know what kennel, I know what run, and I couldn't say no. At the end of May, there was a pup that got brought in, and we I knew it. I looked at him. I was like, there's something about this dog. Like, I didn't want a puppy. Okay. I've been in the shelter, but I wanted an adult dog. And I couldn't help it. This pup tested positive for parvo. He had GI issues. He's been a handful. But that's just because of the life that he was born into, unfortunately, by a backyard breeder. Um, but when I was shown this dog, it was a sign from Jack, which was my dog who passed, to keep doing what I'm doing.
Mm,
I knew that if I left the shelter, I would be doing a disservice to Jack because had I not pulled him, I would have never thought about continuing the path that I'm on now. So I couldn't turn away. And as much as I love the animals at the shelter, it was my first shelter animal that's brought me really into this world.
yeah, absolutely. Well, my condolences for your losses. I had my own soulmate dog who we had to put down last September, so I know that pain. It's a unique pain.
Mhm.
So
It definitely is.
yeah. What advice would you give someone who's starting out in this rescue space? What advice would you want them to hear?
Don't take anything personally.
Mm,
So whether that be the public that is just angry at you and the world because they can't get what they want in that very moment, or that's an animal who, unfortunately doesn't make it due to circumstances. Um, don't put the weight of everything on your shoulders. You can't play the Almighty who can save everything and make everyone happy. You never will be able to. Um, just know that as long as you give it your personal best, that you did that animal a service.
yeah. Was that something that you had to learn, or did you feel like you just like how did you come to that?
It's definitely something I had to learn. I wish this job has taught me a lot of hard life lessons. And me being an animal lover and picking up every single stray I saw when I was younger, you pick them up, animal control takes them, and you're like, woohoo, you know? But being on the back side of that, seeing what actually comes in on those trucks from animal control, um, it's something that I definitely have had to learn, especially with the city and county contracts. We see a lot of abuse, we see a lot of neglect. We also see a lot of just flat out people who probably should have never owned animals in the first place. Um, and so when you can't save those ones that come from those abandonments or the neglect or the abuse, it really hits home. Um, But there's always that moment when they look at you and you can finally see the peace within them and within their eyes. And that's something I had to learn how to identify, but also realize that they're thanking me for even just giving them my personal best because that best was probably the nicest, most kind amount of even just 5 minutes of their life that they've been shown. So,
Yeah, absolutely. We have a very big heart and appreciate everything that you give to these animals that you guys have. before we wrap up, is there anything, I guess, maybe on either the lighter note, like a funny story, a lighthearted moment in this heavy world that you exist in that you want to share?
I mean, I got a lot of them. It's a matter of time. I think actually, yes, I have a wonderful story of one that just happened last week. We had a gentleman come in. He was looking for a cat. He lived all alone. We also, I want to touch this. We are not ageist out at the shelter. So we will not decline any sort of adoption, no matter your age, provided you're over 18. Unfortunately, in Washington State, animals are property, so I have to have somebody to put that microchip in. Um, but we had a gentleman come in. He was lonely. He was looking for a cat, and we took him down. We had this cat. Her name was Bluey. She did not like other cats. She came from a hoarding case. So, of course, she doesn't want to be fighting for food anymore. He came down. He absolutely adored her. He took the weekend to get his house ready and everything. And upon talking to this gentleman more, after he was filling out the paperwork, I found out he was a veteran. And we like to offer veteran discounts as a thank you for your service. And this gentleman, we wanted to surprise him. I didn't know until he'd already cut me the check,
Hmm.
stating that he was going to pay for her adoption fee and everything. And so we're talking more after he left to go get all of his wonderful supplies. I called my manager and I wanted to get the okay. I was like, hey, like, is it okay? I do not want to charge this gentleman. He was 91. He served in Vietnam. He had all the pictures in the world, which was really cool. Um, but so he came to pick her up on Saturday. And we surprised him with more supplies. We sent him home
Hmm.
with litter and a bed and everything. And we did not charge him. We gave him the check back. And he was so excited. And we said, are you going to keep her name or is there one you'd like us to change it to for her microchip? And he said, no, I think her name's perfect because when I get the blues, I know I'll have Bluey with me. And it was wonderful. He was a kick in the pants. It made my Saturday because Saturdays are actually my Fridays. So it made my whole weekend. And I honestly haven't stopped thinking about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And that's very cool, that an opportunity to kind of give back and thank him, and just those kind gestures, I'm sure, go a long way. If people wanted to support the work that you guys are doing over at Grant County Animal Outreach, what's the best way that they can do that?
Our best way would be to like and follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook includes usually the most up-to-date information. If it doesn't, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to yell at me. That's me. Um, but that will also take you to our Instagram. It has an Amazon wish list and it has our link tree. So we rely a lot on donations. We have many ways to donate via PayPal, Venmo, or Amazon. We love Amazon gifts, so do the dogs. And then we also got a fun TikTok if you're looking for a laugh. So we got all the fun stuff on social media.
Yeah, perfect. And I know you provided me with all those links, so I'll make sure to include that in the show notes. So if anyone wants to follow along, um, I don't have a TikTok, but now you're kind of making me want a TikTok just to see that. So I might have to get on. I don't know, but thank you, Serena, so much for again participating in this discussion with me, and being, very open and honest about all the things, good and bad. And yes, if anyone listening wants to support Serena and the team over at Grant County Animal Outreach, I'll have all the links in the bio. So thank you again, Serena.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you again to Serena Jewell from Grant County Animal Outreach for sharing her story. Until next time, may we all find our own tale of resilience. Thanks for joining us on Tales of Resilience. If today's story moved you, reminded you of your own path, or gave you something to think about, please consider sharing this episode with someone else who cares. You can follow us on Instagram at zodi.paws and animal.rescuehub to stay connected, or visit zodipaws.com or animalrescuehub.org to learn more about both of these organizations. And you can also email us directly at info@animalrescuehub.org. And if you or someone you know has a story worth sharing, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, be kind to yourself and never underestimate the power of a tale and a little resilience.